Today we're going to be working with comparing fractions, and if you notice the desks in the back of the room, you'll see that I have set up some groups, but these groups are going to be a little bit different than what we usually do. Usually you're back at the groups and you're working together on an activity, or you're working with a partner, or you're playing a game. But instead today you're going to be doing something on your own back there. You're going to be we're going to see what you already know about comparing fractions. If you know a lot about comparing fractions, we'll be able to see that. If you kind of remember how to do it, but you're not quite sure, we'll see that. And for those of you who don't really know anything about it at all, I'll see that too. And hopefully what we're going to see from this will help me decide how to teach it and what to teach to each of you tomorrow. What we're going to do is we're going to be dividing into 3 groups. And I'll tell you what group you're going to be in. And as we do that, you'll start at group 1, the numbers and symbols group. And I'll just send one group of you to there. And the rest of you will be working on something at your desk, and I'll tell you about in just a moment. But the first group, we'll go over to group 1, the numbers and symbols, and inside the desk will be a piece of paper. Pull out one of them. You'll need your pencil to go with you. Okay? So you'll pull this out, and you're just going to do the tasks on here. And I'm going to talk about the tasks in just a moment. I'm actually going to go back there and show you a little bit more how to do it. The timer will go off. You'll have 8 minutes at each group. Then the first group will rotate to the pictures, and then I'll send another group into the circle. And then after the timer goes off, you'll go to the third one, and we'll just keep rotating. So again, group 1, you'll go to the first center and work on it while the rest of us are back at our desks. When the timer goes off, group 2 will then go there, and group 1 will rotate. Group 1 will move to the third one, objects. Group 2 will then go to the second one, and then group 3 will start. And we'll just keep doing that until everybody's been through all the groups. And again, we're just trying to see what you already know about comparing fractions. Okay? Are there questions so far? All right. If I could get each one of you to kind of stand up, take your chair and turn it so you can see me or see the back of the room, and then take your seat again, just so that everybody can see what I'm doing. Stephanie, you're going to be okay back there? Can you see? All right. The first group, when you come here, what I'd like you to do is inside the desk, you're going to find a packet of papers. You pull it out and you'll read the directions. It says write a fraction in the boxes to the right that represents each of the following. Okay? And then it's going to ask you, and there's a story problem up at the top. And so if it asks you to write a fraction that's bigger than, let's say, 2/10, you're just going to write a fraction that has tenths on the bottom that's bigger than that. But then there's also another challenge. In the box right next to it, you'll have to write another fraction that's also bigger than it that doesn't have a 10 on the bottom. You can use halves, you can use thirds, fourths, fifths, whatever. Just can't be one with a 10 on the bottom. And then the next one, oh, by the way, it's all about football. The whole story problem's about Gators and Seminoles. Sorry, Hurricane fans. No, you can just, whenever, take out Gators, insert your favorite team. There you go. But what you're going to do on this part 2 is just draw the symbol, greater than, less than, or equal to. If my symbol is opened up this way, what is that? Less than for you guys. If I do it this way, it's greater than. Okay? How do you know which way to turn it? How do you remember which way to turn it? Tirsa? The big number gets eaten. How do you remember? It's an alligator and it's going to eat the bigger number. So just turn the symbol the right direction. And then there's one more task on the back, and it's kind of like multiple choice. All you have to do is circle the biggest according to the directions. It says circle a fraction that's greater than 3/4, circle a fraction that's less than 3/4, and you'll just take your pencil and circle it. Okay? When the timer goes off, you will take your paper with your name on it and put it in this basket right here. Okay? Questions about the first station? All right. Someone tell me what you're going to do with the paper when you're finished. Put it in the basket. All right? When the timer goes off, you're going to come to the second station, which is the picture station. Again, you will find a piece of paper inside the desk with the directions on it. And these are your drawings. Instead of writing fractions that are greater than, less than, or equal to, you're going to draw pictures representing them. Okay? Again, it's the same story problem about the Gators and the Seminoles, and just follow the directions. First task, you're drawing the ones that are greater than, less than, or equal to. The second one, you're just putting the symbol. And the third task, you're circling the one that's greater than, less than, or equal to. But this time, they're all pictures rather than the numbers. Okay? Questions?
All right. For this center, what you guys are going to do is you're actually going to use the fraction bars, and you're actually going to make it. So what you're going to do is, for the first one, it says to use halves, thirds, 6/8, tenths, or twelfths. And you're going to say 3/4 is less than, and you're going to have to create another fraction with your bars that is actually less than 3/4. So what you would do is you would take the bars, and you're going to make 3/4, and then make another fraction that you could compare that with. So maybe you would take tenths, if you can, yes, use tenths according to the directions, and make one so that 3/4 would be less than that, and then write your answer in this spot right here. Okay, once you have done all of that and you have made your answers, place your answers on the paper, as so, and then you'll use the camera and take a picture of what you've done. All right? Questions on that part? Okay. So on the next page, once you've done that, you'll take your paper and you'll come over to the side window. And on the side window, you will have choices for 2A, 2B, and 2C. And you will need to tell me whether it's greater than, less than, or equal to. So let's go look at those. You've got 3/8 and 3/4, and you would need to write whether this top one is greater than, less than, or equal to the bottom one, using the correct symbols, and they're listed for you on the paper. Any questions? All right. Good. For question number 3, what you want to do is look here, the top fraction, and you're going to say whether it's less than, greater than, or equal to, this one is less than X, Y, or Z. Pick the one that this is smaller than. And then here for B, you're going to pick 3/6 is equal to which one of these, and pick X, Y, or Z, and just put the letter of your answer. When you are not at one of the other 3 centers, you're going to be at your own desk doing kind of a skill that you already know how to do. It's something that we've been working on the past couple of weeks, and you're going to be doing your versatiles. You know how to use your versatiles. When you're doing the answer to number 1, you put it in the correct letter that matches it on the bottom of the packet. I've got a packet here that you're going to be doing, and what it is it's your expressions and your equations. Got it in words. N times the number H, you just find that expression. Got a couple activities, then you're solving some of them, practicing adding, subtracting, multiplying, and dividing equations. How do you solve an addition equation? Justin? If it's an addition equation, how do you solve it? Actually, it's...
Oh yeah, you subtract.
Subtract. You have to do the opposite, right? So if it's subtraction, you're going to add. If it's multiplication, you're going to divide. And if you divide, you got it. Okay? And so this activity you're going to have at your desk, so that when you're not going at one of the centers, you'll be doing on this paper. Make sure you do put your name, and you're going to want to put your answers on here. I think we're used to that. I don't like you just to do them. I want to be able to have you turn it in and see what you got right or what you got wrong. While they're passing those out, can I tell you the groups you're in?
Sure.
All right. Group 1, Nolan.
So one more time, the timer's going to be set up for 8 minutes at a time. And each one of you, when the group 1 will go into the centers first, timer go off, then group 2 will go in and we'll start rotating, and then group 3. When you're not in the center, what are you going to be working on? What was that, Raymond? You got it. Okay? You'll have 8 minutes at each center, all right? When the timer goes off, we'll move. All right, go ahead. Probably want to set your numbers up first. Put them in order from 1 to 12. Okay? And then when you're doing problem number 1, when you find the answer 9 times, which one of those represents 9 times h? Okay, Rhea? Number 1. This is the... Okay, and then over here, you need to write a fraction that's still showing at the seminal. Okay, if you guys want to, you can start kind of rotating to the next one as you're finishing up. You can rotate. You can. That's fine. Still working. You can go ahead and start working on the next one, and then when the timer goes off, I'll bring the next group in. Okay. All right, it looks like everybody is kind of ready to move on, so even though the timer was set for 8 minutes, we're going to do it a little bit shorter than that, because I think you don't need as much time as we thought, which is fine. So group 2. Jared, Scott, Xanth, Jesse, and Trinice. If you will take your name and your pencil and go ahead and start in the numbers and symbols group. Those of you working on versatiles in group 3, keep working on them. I'm going to change the timer. You know what you're doing, Jesse? You know what you're doing?
2/10.
Mm-hmm. If that's showing that the Seminoles gained more than the Gators.
Oh,
Okay.
okay.
And then in this one, you're showing one that's not tenths. So it has to be in halves, fourths, or whatever. I think everybody else has gone ahead and moved. That's fine.
you all know about, okay? And then, so let's take a look at.
I'm actually not gonna draw it. I'm just gonna leave it. This one you can use again, but your answer will be left in that spot.
Thank you all very much. You guys were wonderful in the centers today. When you were confused, you asked questions, which was really smart. Tomorrow, what I'm going to have is I'm going to have looked at all the activities that you did at the 3 centers, and I'm going to kind of see what it is that where we need to start tomorrow. So what we did today is really going to help us decide how we're going to continue with our lesson tomorrow. All right? Once all the papers get passed in, thank you all very much.
As the students completed each center, I had a basket that they could place their papers into so that they had something to do with them. And then after the students left the class for the day, I was able to take each of the assessments and take the time to look at them and really determine whether they were at a frustrational, instructional, or mastery level at both the receptive and the expressive level. I also kind of tried to look at errors and if there were any patterns in that, and really tried to analyze to see if there was a specific pattern to what kind of mistakes they were making. I did a little bit during the actual assessment of, taking the time to sit down with the students and, while they were doing the assessment and say, well, why are you writing it this way? Or explain to me, try to teach me what you're doing. And then afterwards, I did pull 1 or 2 students and kind of have them take their assessment and go through that and do the same thing, explaining what they did sometimes, and other times I said, well, pretend I'm the student and try to teach it to me. I first took a look at the students' abstract work, and I really noticed that when it came to comparing fractions to 6/10, and they had to write one that represented greater than, more, less than, or equal to, they were very capable of doing that with tenths. But when it came to other denominators, other than tenths, there was a little bit of confusion, and they struggled more with that. Again, comparing to 6/10, obviously made some mistakes in these two. But when it was the equal to, he was able to simplify 6/10 and get 3/5. But then I also noticed down here with the using the symbols greater than, less than, or equal to, I kind of found a pattern, and I noticed that even though getting some of these correct, this student always chose the digits that were larger as the greater fraction. And so at this point, I wanted to interview this student to make sure that I was noticing what I should be noticing, and that discovering that the student, why they made the mistakes they did, and it wasn't just a pattern that I found, and that it actually was a mistake they had made. And so at that point, I kind of brought the student over and asked them to explain why they had chosen 3/6 as greater than 2/4. And as I had assumed, he did clarify that, well, 3 and 6 are bigger than 2 and 4, so they must be larger fraction even though they are actually equal. And then from that, I also chose to discuss with him his drawings, and they were supposed to be drawing or representing fractions more than, less than, or equal to 2/10. And so in this first one, he drew 3/10. The next one he drew 1/10, and the last one 2/10. And so again, sticking with the tenths, he was very successful with that. So again, in the interview, I wanted to see if maybe he could do other denominators. And so that in this process, I asked him to represent, 3/5 and or a fraction that didn't have tenths, that was larger, smaller, or equal to. And he had trouble with that. He did have difficulty with that. One of the other things that I wanted to touch on in the interview with the student was the size of the pieces that he had drawn. If you notice, he has some of his tenths are very large, whereas the other tenths are very narrow. And so in this, I tried to kind of act as the student, and I was drawing them, and I was trying to make them all different size pieces to try to see if he could kind of catch that that was a mistake, to find out if this was just sloppy work or not understanding that each piece needs to be proportionally the same size to the whole, and to have each piece be the same amount of area. And so the student was not able to see that that was a big deal, and I even used a circle and sliced it into vertical slices, and the student did not catch that that would be a mistake. And so therefore I was able to pinpoint that he does not have the true concept of what a fraction is, and that each piece has to be the same size.